Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports. Really excited for this video, and the NBA Draft Lottery is finally here. Today is the day, and I'm so excited to figure out where Victor Wembanyama is going to be playing, Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller, Amen Thompson. All of the possibilities are going to be flying around. I'm also going to be live on the channel multiple times today, talking a little bit more about kind of what this video is, but also just about potential draft lottery situations, what could happen, and really how that's going to shape up the NBA over the next few years or so. I think tonight, the NBA Draft Lottery night, is probably the most important single night in NBA history since the 2016 Finals Game 7 between the Cavs and Warriors, in terms of historical impact and legacy and kind of the shaping of the league in general. You think back to that night, that kind of began the process for Kevin Durant ultimately landing with the Golden State Warriors, I believe. And I think tonight there's going to be massive ramifications as well with whoever lands the first overall pick. Victor Wembanyama is going to completely shape the future of the NBA. And I think that other players in this draft will have massive impacts as well. The NBA Draft Combine's underway. I've been having a lot of fun keeping my eyes on that as well, kind of affirming a lot of the things I believe. It typically doesn't really shape my opinion too much, but there's still a lot to learn just by seeing these guys in some different, drills and settings like that we typically don't get to see as much of the behind the scenes stuff when it comes to regular season, especially college players. So there's a lot to learn, but I do want to talk about in this video not only simming the lottery one time, which is what we're going to do, and then we're going to kind of react to that in what is a final lottery simulation on the channel, but then we're also going to talk about these tiers of teams and how I think these teams could play out depending on if they got the first overall pick. And I have three categories here. I have the unfair category, I have the really good young core category, and I have franchise salvation as the final category. And I think the 14 teams here in the lottery all fit in different ways into those categories. For example, let's talk about the completely unfair category. What teams kind of fit into that long term? I think there's a few teams that really make a lot of sense. I think the Dallas Mavericks with Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, you add Victor Wembanyama into that. That is a completely unfair team that would be championship contenders year one. I think the Oklahoma City Thunder also definitely fit into that with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We saw this team as a play-in team last year without Chet Holmgren playing. If you add Victor Wembanyama into that core, this team is going to take a massive leap. You also have, I think, the New Orleans Pelicans fit into this, and I also think the Orlando Magic fit into this as well, simply because the Magic, very young. They've got Paolo Banchero, who I think if they can get a number one guy next to in a Victor Wembanyama, it gives them so much offensive skill and length and a true clear play style that I think is going to be really good. New Orleans, of course, you don't have to put two and two together to figure that one out. Ingram, Zion, CJ, it's just a really good core. You could argue Toronto maybe fits into this list as well as a really good landing spot for Victor Wembanyama. The team went about 500 now. Firing Nick Nurse pre-lottery, if they came out with the number one pick, maybe seems a little weird, because then they'd have to try and find a really good coach that can help them win right away. They have a lot of questions looming about Siakam and Anunoby, and how do they build around Scotty Barnes? I think all of that becomes pretty clear if you get Victor Wembanyama, because it's no longer how do we build around Scotty Barnes, it's how do we build around Victor Wembanyama. And I think Scotty Barnes is a really good starting point, as well as some of the key veterans that they already have. Let's get into some of those young core teams that I think have really promising young cores that are maybe a little bit less proven than those other teams we talked about. And I think that's where we see the Detroits, the Houstons, the San Antonios. I definitely think Charlotte fits into that as well, just given LaMelo Ball, likely see Miles Bridges playing again next year there. Indiana definitely fits into this too, just given the fact that they have Tyrese Halliburton, locks them in there. And then Utah, the Jazz, I think is another team that makes sense in this category, simply because you look at them and they have all the assets. So you might say, well, maybe they become the unfair team. At some point, they potentially could. I think that's a little too far out to really project. But just based on their core right now of Markkanen, Kessler, you add in Wembanyama, I think that they'd be in that kind of promising good young core. And then the franchise salvation, it really comes down to Portland, who I think right now is on the cusp of a really difficult decision to make on whether they try and build around Damian Lillard again, if they try and win with him, if they trade Dame and try and win with, Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe down the road. That's the young core that I really like. But at the same time, I think that there's a real possibility here that they give Jeremy Grant massive money. And if they don't have a starting center outside of Yusuf Nurkic, I just don't really see a way that this team wins a lot of games. Victor Wembanyama clearly solves that, which is why, for me, he's a franchise saver here in this case. I also think, you look at a team like Washington, another franchise-saving destination, simply because Washington right now, they've got some tough questions with Kuzma, Porzingis. What are they going to do? And I think really, you look at Washington the last 20, 25 years, John Wall was really like the franchise guy. Obviously did not end up sticking there for his entire career or anything like that. And of course, the injuries really hindered his play toward the back end of his time there, to the point where, he missed good chunks of seasons. And it was just kind of a sad ending there. I think Bradley Beal was hopefully going to become that player. I just don't know if he's good enough to be looked at as like the franchise guy, the all-in, albeit very heavily paid player. Yeah, I just don't know. I think Victor Wembanyama would just completely shape the culture of the team. I think he would completely shape how people look at the team. It would just be a massive difference. And then also the last one I have to mention, the Chicago Bulls might need this first overall pick worse than anybody. Their core is aging. Lonzo Ball, who is meant to be a really key part of their core, probably does not play basketball for another 12 months at the very least. And because of that, there's some real concerns about not only the longevity of this team, but how good are they going to be in the short term, even while being old, with Nikola Vucevic heading toward free agency. I think if they were to win the lottery, it would completely reshape what we expect from them moving forward. And I think the one thing about Chicago, too, that's different than some of these other teams, as you can tell, if their pick's not in the top four, they actually owe it to Orlando. So not only do they have a lot to gain by moving up, they have a lot to lose by not moving up. So those are kind of my tiers there of the teams that I look at as, unfair, hugely advantaged teams. Some of those teams with really great young cores, and then also the teams that really just badly need Victor Wembanyama to come in and save the day for them, and really kind of help them through some difficult times when it comes to decisions. But here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for, the lottery simulation. Let's see here in this video, where is Victor Wembanyama going? And it is a franchise-saving destination. The Washington Wizards, who had the 8th best odds, move up. Now, I know my viewers here are going to say, whoa, look at this. We have 4 teams moving up. This is absolutely crazy. Again, this is Tankathon. Sometimes the lottery odds, I don't think they play out perfect on this website, but it's just fun to look at. Let's do another one. In fact, let's talk about Washington quick. Again, franchise saver. There, San Antonio staying at 2. Scoot Henderson, really great option. Portland at 3, probably a trade spot for whoever wants to go up and get Brandon Miller or Amen Thompson. Gives Portland some significant ammunition. And then Dallas jumping up to 4 also gives them significant ammunition in what could maybe become a Pascal Siakam trade. I wouldn't completely rule that out. At some point after the draft lottery, we're going to have a lot of discussion about potential trades. But let's hit one more lottery simulation here. The Charlotte Hornets move up to number 1 in this one. The Rockets stick at 2. Pacers move up to 3. Remember, the team with the 7th best lottery odds in the last 5 years have all moved up into the top 4. So it's very possible we see Indiana make a similar jump. And then Portland moves up 1 spot. Detroit falls down 4. San Antonio moves down 3. Orlando falls down 1. Let's sim one more time, and we see Charlotte, Houston, San Antonio, Detroit, Portland. I mean, that's kind of the the 4 worst teams in the league. So makes sense. Detroit ends up falling to 4. Charlotte jumps to 1. Would be a dream situation for them. And here we see Portland move up to 1, Detroit to 2, Charlotte to 3, and Dallas to 4. So some interesting lottery simulations. Again, time you guys are seeing this, we're only a few hours away from finding out where Victor Wembanyama is going to spend at least the first 8 years of his NBA career, likely 9 years, in what would be a massive reshaping of not only the NBA as we currently know it, but when we look back on it 25, 35 years from now, this night is going to be one of the most important nights in NBA history. I firmly believe that. I think the draft rights to Victor Wembanyama, probably one of the most valuable things in the league right now. I think to honestly trade for him, like if the Celtics were to try and do it, it would cost Jason Tatum for sure. If the Mavs were to do it, it would cost Luka Doncic for sure, just given, where those guys are at in their careers. Obviously, it sounds crazy, but you have to think Victor Wembanyama is going to be on his rookie deal. Then he'll have restricted free agency. You're basically tying yourself to him for at least 8 years before you'd even have to consider trading him. Whereas Luka could be a flight risk in 2 years. Tatum could be a flight risk at some point too. Not that they would be, right? But those are some of the things, if you were to make a trade, you'd have to at least consider, which is why, to me, Victor Wembanyama's draft rights might be the most valuable thing in the league when it comes to an individual single asset, which is why tonight is such an important night. Comment down below who you think is going to get the #1 overall pick. Maybe manifest some good vibes for your team. If you're a fan, I'm a big Dallas Mavericks fan. Moving up into the top 4 would be pretty nice for them, but honestly, I don't really expect it to happen. I'm just hoping that they don't fall to 11 and send that pick to the New York Knicks. We'll see what happens, though. You know, Portland, Detroit, Charlotte, whatever team gets him, I'm not even going to be mad. Like, I'm just excited for good basketball. I'm excited to watch Victor Wembanyama in the NBA. So because of that, I'm just stoked to see where he goes on draft night, and specifically draft lottery night. Reminder, too, I will be live on the channel, probably at the time you're watching this or shortly thereafter. So make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more. Then also an NBA mock draft will come out after the lottery. There's going to be a lot of work that has to go into it, so it'll probably be a couple hours after the draft lottery results, because I'm going to have to put together an entire mock around it, and a lot of things are going to shape up. So it's not like I can just whip it together, but it'll be a few hours after. I'm going to try my hardest to kind of prep that ahead of time. I might look at picks 15 through 30 and kind of get a rough plan and then kind of reshape from there. But that's going to be coming on the channel. There's going to be a lot of good content. So hopefully you guys do enjoy. Again, leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.